The catastrophe at Chernobyl was a frightening cover-up. Most likely you've heard of travel to the exclusion zone around Chernobyl. I've personally been there several times. It also differs greatly from what you see in horror films or video games. There are no radioactive anomalies, ghosts, or mutants, and death isn't lurking around every turn. It's among the world's most serene and beautiful locations, in my opinion, an illustration of nature's power and its ability to repair the harm humans have caused it. So, my buddy Alexei knew who to call when he made the decision to go there. He added that he was looking for some first-hand measurements and samples for his study on nuclear fallout, which he is now doing as a physics student. But we both understood that it was really only a pretext to have an experience. We explored the surrounding exclusion zone, the abandoned city of Pripyat, and the ancient power. I would probably simply bore you with additional information. Even if it was wonderful, in any case, that portion is unimportant. When we discovered it, we were traveling through a forest east of Pripyat on some dirt roads. Any further access was barred by a guarded gate and an old, rusting fence. A large sign with the words "Restricted Area" and a radiation danger emblem was there. Only authorized staff members. Not far beyond the fence were two enormous metal blast doors with no entrance sprayed on top and a huge white O13 painted on them. The doors were situated on the edge of an artificial-looking hill. What is it, in your opinion? How about Alex? I said. I don't know. Looks like some kind of bunker. I looked at the doors more closely and noted that it seems to have been closed for some time. The middle of both sections was welded shut. We were too perplexed to go quite yet, but Alex collected his samples and readings. Think we can make it in? I inquired. Certainly not in this manner. We don't have a means to release it, even if it wasn't welded shut. Alex looked at the enormous door and answered, "It seems to be a subterranean bunker. I don't suppose this is how they pumped air inside. They must have had another method," I answered. "There has to be another way in an attempt to locate other entrances." We circled the main entrance. It was gradually becoming darker as the day was drawing to a close. I had a notion while we were looking. How come the doors would be welded? Why would they go to this extent to keep people out if what's inside is so important? Look, Alex drew me out of my reverie. There's something there. It was a few of meters big concrete block with what seemed to be vents on the sides. Upon inspecting the vents, I saw that they were also sealed up with bulky appearing steel gates that lacked an obvious means of opening them. But there was also a somewhat smaller entrance with a big wheel outside that said "Service Tunnel. Shall I open it?" I inquired. Yes, I'm curious as to what this is. Well, it's not like we have to enter. We'll at least check to see whether the door still works. The wheel was so covered in filth and rust that it would not spin at first, but after a while it gave way. The door parted ways. It began to gently open as I pulled. It required a lot of energy and was really heavy. There was a narrow, vertical tunnel with a ladder behind the entrance as well as a little platform. The fact that the inside locking mechanism was the same attracted my attention. This implied they could lock the door from the outside as well. However, why? We were fortunate because there would be no means of entry if they had also secured it from the inside. I entered and shone the light from my phone down the shaft. It was not powerful enough to sync. There was something I couldn't quite place, and the air seemed musty and ancient, a little fragrance, almost like chemicals. Neither radiation nor any other warning indications were present. "You must be joking with me. This is very awesome," Alex remarked. "We have to come back here and investigate later." I completely concur. We shut the door again and ended the day since it was getting close to nightfall. But we made a self-promise to come back when I went home. I attempted to conduct some research right away, but sadly I was unsuccessful. I even attempted to phone my buddy Pavel, who was more familiar with the region than I was. He was the one who first brought me there. He said he would check around, but he couldn't assist me either. I informed him of our plan and requested if he wouldn't join us, but he was. Regrettably, temporarily abroad after a week, we prepared our equipment and continued, in case anything happened. We packed a tiny emergency diving tank, an oxygen meter, glow sticks, Geiger counters, strong flashlights, and rope. We informed our friends and family about our vacation and our anticipated return date because, well, we're not that foolish. We went down the access shaft and shut the door behind us. We were unable to determine what was under the surface, and we had no desire to start a radioactive leak or something like eventually. We descended into a tunnel made of concrete that included many smaller pipes and the air vents. Nothing was lit since there was no electricity. Fortunately, we had brought our own. We continued the tunnel to another entrance, but instead of the strong bunker type, this one was ordinary. We passed through it into a room containing electrical controls and equipment, as well as 4 enormous air pumps here. The ventilation shaft divided into 2 bigger sections that went straight down to the earth, and 2 smaller sections that crossed the room and went directly in front of another set of doors. There was a big hall beyond the doors, full with freight, crates, and other boxes lying about. Additionally, there was a security checkpoint. We discovered the main entrance that we could see from the outside behind the barrier. There was some big lifting equipment right next to it. We looked at a pair of elevators after passing past the checkpoint on our way back. A basic map showing the building's floor plans was included. We were in the main entry hall on level 0. 4 more levels awaited us below: offices, security, and entertainment on floor -1. End to floor -2, safe rooms, floor -3, decontamination chamber in a clean room, accelerator, experiment site, floor -4. Object 13 was the name of the map. This was no military bunker. This location was for research. Without electricity, the elevators were useless, so we opted up a flight of steps as we descended. An alarming notion crossed my mind. It's likely that they were transferring some supplies when they carried the equipment to the main entrance and left them there. Were they attempting to flee? I lost my balance as I walked on another stair step and fell on my back because something slid away under my foot. Fortunately, my pack took most of the hit. I checked under my feet to see what had fallen on me: empty shells for bullets. This was not the only thing that made me uncomfortable at this location. Upon reaching level -1, I saw that every single door was ajar. Each and every one at the start of a long rectangular hallway were a kitchen and a canteen. The corridor was bordered by several offices. Everything that was expected of them was there. Old computers, documentation, personal items, etc. Were they hurrying off? Dmitri? From the other side of the hallway in the cafeteria, Alex yelled. I followed him to the canteen, not knowing what to say other than what. The food was still arranged beautifully on the tables. It wasn't ruined, however. It was not fresh either, but neither was it going bad. As 30 years old food ought do, how is it possible? I inquired. I'm not sure. Maybe it was radioactively contaminated. I verified that it isn't anymore, however. As perplexed as I was, he said, I don't know, man. Oh, why didn't we simply walk away and turn around? As I sit here and write this, so many warning signs have already been raised. Something went awry down that way, but maybe we were too eager and inquisitive. But this is when I began to lose my exhilaration and get a creepy sense instead. Still, we went on and went down to level -2. This was the end of the stairway. To go much farther, we would have to travel across the whole floor to another one on the other side to get to the laboratories. We had to go through a big blast door and a security checkpoint. Once again, all the doors were ajar, but the items that individuals left here weren't all neatly arranged in their proper locations. Everywhere was a complete mess. I was confused by the variety of rooms and equipment that were there. Every now and again, there were extra empty bullet shells lying about. The chambers around the center rectangular hallway, which was still there, resembled a little labyrinth. We located the chief scientist's office just across the floor. Everything was a mess, as I said, but I did find a logbook on the desk. Only a few pages remained. The rest had been pulled away. 5 today, October 1984. We have effectively moved several atoms around without affecting their physical characteristics. We're making excellent progress here, but it will be a long way before we can move substantial items. 17. We have successfully transported 1 apple today, January 1985. But the pattern of red and green skin on top was a little different. I couldn't help but notice, nonetheless. The apple remained identical in terms of its composition, form, and all other aspects. We also attempted to move a few gadgets. They were in operational condition and undamaged. Although I believe there is still much for us to learn and refine about this technology. We cannot stop working on it just yet. The nation is depending on us. 21. We moved our first person here today in February 1985. After the animal experiments, he is a valiant national hero who is still alive and well. Although we have shown that this technique is now functional, the fixed translocation ratio severely restricts its use. We are still unable to ship the item, just switch the locations of two objects with the same mass. A new kind of gadget that I have suggested might accomplish one-way translocation of a single item, but it would need a tremendous amount of energy. My proposition was approved by our superiors in May 1985 in order to employ a nuclear reactor as a direct power source. A new, much larger translocator will be built here in the power plant. There's still one more item. At this point, we've moved dozens of test participants. All of them are living and healthy, albeit sometimes they exhibit little variations. They sometimes assert that certain historical events occurred in a different way than they really did. They sometimes make the frightening assertion that they know individuals that are not supposed to know, or that they know people who are not real. The handwriting below was done in pencil after the trial. Test subject 28 could not comprehend any genuine language and was speaking in an unfamiliar language after then. Several pages were gone. 25. We are going to attempt to modify our strategy in April 1986. We haven't been able to get rid of the translocation symmetry abnormality for over a year. Even if we still don't know what's causing it, we won't advance in this manner. Instead, we will attempt to access the conduit reality now. We are going to utilize Unit 2, the one we constructed in the power plant. Even though it is still brand new, who knows what treasures lie beyond the threshold. The logbook had one last page. It was only one sentence, scrawled over and over on it. We opened the door for them. I phoned Alex and said, "I believe we should go." He said, "Man, come look at this." I left the lab and went back out into the corridor. Clothes were scattered over the hallway. What was remained of them, then, they were ripped apart. Nothing except scraps of fabric and the odd shoe or watch. No corpses, no blood. I raised my head and fixed my gaze on the dimly lit hallway front of us. I stood like that for a long time, it seemed. I don't know. Like something had ripped all of these individuals to pieces and then cleaned everything up except clothing and other non-biological items. A surge of sheer primal fear swept throughout me. I was immobile. Not even a breath